Well, hello there, everybody. It's Rosie here, and I'm the founder of Enjoy Yoga, for those of you who don't know me, and Rosie Glow. And I really just wanted to respond to this latest flu pandemic, because I know there are a lot of very frightened mums and dads and teenagers, because obviously the way that the media portrays things, pregnant women. And I really wanted to put this flu in some perspective for you. Okay, so if you don't sort of know my background, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a scientist. I am a mother, though. I am a mother who researched very deeply everything within the vaccine world when my daughter was very young. In fact, it was when I was pregnant, and it was my midwife at the time that cottoned me on to looking at things beyond what I was being told by public health. And that is exactly what I did, and I'm very lucky to have been blessed with an education to university status, so I've learnt to be able to critically examine data. And as a result of that, I feel confident to share this information with you, for you to look at things with a common sense approach rather than fear, because fear makes us make decisions out of fear. And we make those decisions because we're too scared to take responsibility for researching and doing what is right for our family. So the latest flu that is apparently now causing a pandemic is the Aussie flu. And we know we have flu vaccines, and flu vaccines are supposed to protect us from flu. But if anyone knows anything about viruses, you will know that viruses mutate. So it's interesting, isn't it, how as we've had flu vaccines be developed, we have had more and more deadly forms of flu seemingly come along. We've had bird flu, we've had swine flu, we've had norovirus, which is different, but again, this is another issue that is plaguing hospitals. I mean, the NHS is really struggling in the UK. And, you know, one of the things that really cause a problem on a public health system in hospitals, something that is contagious. So flu is contagious, norovirus is contagious, MRSA is contagious. And, you know, the methods that we currently have aren't working. They're not working to a point that we've eradicated the issues that we're supposedly going to eradicate by approaching health in this way, which is, oh my goodness, there's something terrifying, we must create something to attack it, to block it, to prevent it. And this is all based on immune system immune system suppression. Now, anyone who's got a child knows that the first thing that you'll be told if you ring up the government at the NHS and you've got a sick child with a fever, have you given them Calpol? And this is the standard narrative, that you give them Calpol to bring the fever down. But what Calpol does is it masks the fever. It doesn't actually allow the body to use the fever to kill off what's in the body, the bacteria that's in the body that is causing the problem. And you'll know as well that there is a difference between bacteria and there is a difference between viruses. And antibiotics can work with bacteria, but they can't work with viruses. So we're developing vaccines for viruses. Viruses mutate. We're giving antibiotics for bacterias. Bacterias are mutating. So we're now ending up with these superbugs that the antibiotics that we have are not strong enough to be able to deal with. So actually overall, if you take a step back from what you're told by our media and our governments and our public health, that actually we're not getting any better. We're not winning with the current approach that we have. And, you know, I do believe, and I am incredibly grateful for the public health system we have in terms of emergency. And by that I mean, if my arm's hanging off, or I've stopped breathing, or I can't breathe, I've got heart problems, then going and getting the help that's available is definitely the way to go. But in terms of prevention, we really need to start looking more at what we can do for ourselves, for our families, to protect ourselves from the stuff that's out there in the environment, because the current approach might be lowering levels in certain demographics, but it's also increasing. And if you do the research on this, you can look it up yourself. We've got so many more allergies, we've got so many more intolerances, that what we're doing with our current system, our healthcare system is based on popping pills. It's either based on taking supplements or it's based on taking pharmaceutical drugs. Either way, it's popping pills. And I'm not an advocate for supplements all the time, but I do understand there are times when they are useful, and there are certain supplements that we do really benefit from unless we're going to take a very radical approach to our health. However, on the pharmaceutical side, anybody who is taking pharmaceutical drugs regularly will tell you they are all ridden with side effects. So you end up with one drug to protect you from this, but then it has this side effect, so then you have another drug to support you with that side effect, but then it has another side effect, and before you know it, you're popping lots and lots of pills. And if you look at the rates in the US, you're looking at the fact that the biggest killer out there is too many drugs being taken at the same time and not taken in the right way. So I'm suggesting here a different approach. Now, with this video, once I've finished it, I'm going to post a link to a really, really good talk by a doctor who is talking about sugar, the white stuff. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Sugar, I'll read it to you now. The Bitter Truth. Okay, so this is going to tell you that one of the biggest problems we've got is affecting our gut bacteria. 80% of the immune system is in the gut, okay? And sugar is the biggest feeder of the bad bacteria in our gut, and we are all addicted to sugar. Sugar and yeast. Now, bear in mind that you might not think carbohydrates or fruit convert to sugar, but they do. So your pasta, your bread, your cakes, your biscuits, your whole grains, your rice, this all converts to sugar in the body. That's how the body metabolizes it. So we are very much into a carbohydrate-based diet in the West. We love to eat refined sugars. We love our sugary drinks. Think about the diet that your child is eating. How much of it is frozen food? How much of it is processed food? How much of it is carbohydrate-based? How much of it has sugar in it? And there you will see where the problem lies. Same for if you're pregnant. Same for if you're a normal adult, breastfeeding mum, whatever. You're filling yourself up with the type of food that isn't actually nutritionful, but it might stop you being hungry. However, you will get hungrier again and you'll want to eat more, which is overloading your digestive system. So your digestive system is constantly trying to digest because you're eating too much. And as a result of that, your immune system is compromised, because your immune system, in the end, the body has to decide between rest and repair, feed and breed, which is what digestion's to do with, and fight, flight, freeze, which is when we're on the run all the time, we're busy, or we're in a state of anxiety, stress, fear, which when you start thinking about a flu pandemic, it's not exactly going to make you feel safe, is it? So we're being attacked externally by information that is making us feel fearful, and then we're turning to the things that comfort us, that are usually not very good for us, and we are perpetuating a problem. So let's look at what the solution can be. Before I finish this video as well, I'm going to read out something from my friend Ben Johnson, who explains beautifully why it's important to understand how flus work, how bugs work, and how your body works with them, depending on how well your body is. So, I understand that the flu vaccines were administered in schools before Christmas. Maybe you were sitting on the fence. I know how hard it is when you're constantly getting letters home saying, your child is due to have this. If you don't want it, tell us why. And although in this country it is still our right to choose whether or not to vaccinate, whether or not to give flu vaccines and so forth, there's a tremendous amount of public pressure to do so. And you are looked down upon, even by your friends, even by other parents in the playground, if you don't actually vaccinate your children with all the public health offers that are available, because apparently you're putting other children at risk. Now, what's interesting is in all the time that we've had vaccines, let's just focus on the flu one, we haven't eradicated flu. What tends to happen, as we said, is these viruses and these bacterias that we're working with, either through antibiotics or vaccines, mutate. So we are losing. We're constantly going to be trying to create something else to fight the next superbug, the next super bacteria. And if our gut is not well, then we are going to overall not be well. And it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. So if you put it in the context of having had antibiotics at birth, for example, you're already on the back foot. You really need to be boosting your good bacteria. Let's just say that you are You've had antibiotics at birth, mum had it at birth, you've had it at birth because it was intravenous, then what you're dealing with here is the fact that the good bacteria in your gut's been completely killed. Even if you're breastfeeding your baby, you're likely to be eating sugar, which is going to be feeding, and yeast that's going to be feeding the bad bacteria in your gut, the not so good bacteria in your gut. And so in terms of your immune system being heightened, it's not. You're on the back foot unless you replenish with something called probiotics. And there are lots and lots of probiotics on the market. In fact, you can even get probiotics on the NHS. They are very expensive and they don't give them out willy-nilly. But what's interesting is in other countries, you are given probiotics standard every time you're given antibiotics. Why don't we get them here? Well, the budget doesn't stretch to them. They're not seen as necessary because it is believed that the body will heal itself given the right conditions. That is true. But the right conditions aren't the conditions we go home in. The right conditions aren't the world that we're currently living in. The right conditions are when you are eating a plant-based diet, you are happy, you are low in stress levels, you are exercising, you feel taken care of by life, and you are avoiding sugar, alcohol, yeast, and all the things that are really not very good for your immune system. So we're living in a world that's against those right conditions at the moment. So we do need to do extra to build ourselves up. And what you can actually do if you don't want to be giving yourself or your child the flu vaccine, and you know, personally, I don't think that's the way forward. I know that there are some results with the public health programs that we have in place at the moment, but the way things work is misunderstood. It's not a holistic health model. It's an allopathic health model, which is treat the symptom, not the cause. And we are causing more problems as a result of looking at our health in that way. So you might be alive, but that doesn't mean that you are vital and healthy, and you are likely to end up with another health condition that you will need other medication for. And if you know someone who's generally chronically unwell, you know that it leads to mental health issues because you feel depressed, because you feel demotivated, because you can't do anything. Then you can comfort eat and become obese. There's a whole cascade of issues that mean you can be living, you can be breathing, but you're not well, you're not vibrant, you're not healthy, you're not happy. So let's look at what can actually make you vibrant, healthy and happy. Firstly, probiotics. If you're on a budget, there are probiotic foods you can make at your house. You can brew kombucha. You can make all sorts of pickles. There's something called the Gut Psychology Syndrome book by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. It's called the GAPS diet. You can look that up and it's full of recipes that you can do at home. You can also eliminate refined sugar from yours and your children's diet, and you can give them lots of other lovely treats instead. And those treats include, there's a wonderful Instagram site called I'm Made Today, which is my lovely friend and client Carla Collins. If you're on Instagram, look up I'm Made Today, because she's got all sorts of beautiful recipes that she feeds her kids, and they're sugar-free and they are carb-free. And they're so much better than what you'll otherwise buy in a packet. And if you haven't got a lot of time to do this kind of thing, you know, make them in batches, put them in the freezer, do one treat a week. The treat does not need to be refined sugar, refined flour, refined marge or butter or whatever. It's something that can be really, really good for you. And high fat is good for you. Good fat is good for you. So increase the fats, increase the proteins, reduce the carbs. Remember that we're being encouraged to have our 5 fruit and veg a day, but actually it's more like 10 that we need a day. So if you're not getting near that amount, you definitely need supplements as well. There are wonderful supplements for children. There are wonderful supplements for adults. I wouldn't say that the things that you can buy in the high street shops and supermarkets are what I would call wonderful supplements. But there are companies like doTERRA. Not only do they do the oils, but they do brilliant supplements as well. If you know you need to supplement, they do them for kids, they do them for adults. And you can also obviously benefit from wholesale accounts, so you can save money in the long term as well. So, you know, looking at things and approaching things from lots of different angles, letting go of endocrine disruptive chemicals in your life. So that means looking at all of the products you put on your body, all of the products that you put on your children's bodies, all of the products that you clean your house with. They're full of toxic chemicals, and these things play havoc with our hormones, which also affects our endocrine system, which also affects the whole of our immune system. So it's important to understand that the more that you reduce the chemical load in your life, life, the more you're going to be able to deal with the bugs and the viruses and everything else, because you're not toxically laden, you're not overloaded. There's a level called critical mass. When you reach critical mass, that's when you're too toxic and you get sick. So we all can cope with so much, and our bodies are generally really good at processing things. But if we're under more stress than usual, if we're not looking after our diet, if we're not looking after our mental health by being careful with screen time, by being careful with who we expose ourselves to, then all of these things can really affect us in a way that our immune system is weakened, and that makes us more susceptible to flu. What are other things you can do? Well, look, I would always recommend that you have a homeopath. We have homeopaths that we recommend through Enjoy Yoga. In particular, Natalie Jensen or Beechamp, I'm not sure who she goes by, but, you know, very, very good results working with children, with babies and with adults, parallel to what you'll get from the doctors. So, you know, using something without side effects is always going to be a better idea than something with side effects, and no one can prove how effective anything is. You can just generalize, and as all of you know, statistics can be very easily manipulated. We can now scientifically prove just about anything we want to just by how we set the parameters for the test, and things are supposed to be stringent, but when you actually look back and when you look at the bitter truth, the bitter truth, there'll be lots of studies that are actually cited in there which have formed government policy, public health policy, that are actually tremendously flawed in their understanding, and we're still using those methods to decipher what our public health campaigns are going to be based on. He also touches on heart disease, he touches on diabetes, he's talking about all of the things that we've supposedly found an answer to and we're treating, but the system that we've provided, the advice that we've been given through public health isn't actually reducing the problem. In fact, it's making it worse. So we all really need to, as parents to be, as people who care about our friends and our community, better informed as to what the alternatives are. The first thing I wanted to share with you is this oil, which is called On Guard. Now, this is from doTERRA. It's a proprietary blend, and this is called the Protective Blend. Now, this is used currently in over 100 hospitals in the US because it kills MRSA, okay? It's that good. And what's so brilliant about this oil is that you can, it kills bacteria and viruses. It works with both. So as we've already said, usually things work with one or the other. This works with both. You can diffuse it in a diffuser first thing in the morning, so everybody gets their lungs cleared and gets fortified before they get on the train, before they get on the bus, before they go to school. So this is great for partners, for children and for parents, okay? You can also put it on the soles of your feet and on the soles of your feet, the feet of your children and your babies if it's diluted in a carrier oil. And again, there are appropriate instructions in terms of how much to put of everything, but this is available through doTERRA distributors, so this is easy to get hold of and it lasts, okay? There's 85 drops in this little bottle, and you can get a bottle 3 times the size, so 250 drops. Flu season, this is what I'd be putting on every day before I go out, okay? So that I'm protected, I take it with me. They do soft gels as well, so they do cough sweets, they do soft gels. So this really, really helps to boost the immune system. So that's one thing. The other oil is oregano oil. Now, again, these are high potency therapeutic grade oils, okay? So these are not the ones that you just buy in the shop that say they're 100% essential oil, but they're not, because the market is as yet unregulated. So you need a company that you can trust, and this company I trust because of the independent testing that goes on, and because these are edible because of the actual standard that they are. They're beyond organic. This one acts as an antibiotic, okay? This is as good as any antibiotic. You use it for 10 days, discontinue, 10 days, discontinue. Like, it's really powerful using it in the same way. So if you're already ill, you treat with both of these or one of these, depending on your sensitivity, age of yourself, how well you are, your child, etc. Melaleuca, this is also known as tea tree, antibacterial, antiviral. Lemon oil, brilliant for coughs. Lavender, brilliant for sleep. you know, oils really have their place in our modern world because they're very high potency. So, you know, if we were really well balanced, we wouldn't need them. But because we're not very well balanced, they're like, you know, an effective treatment that is essentially no side effects if you've got the right ones, and you don't, you know, you've got to work out and do tests and just check that you're not reactive to anything, but they're generally incredibly well tolerated. Basically, you're in a position where you can treat yourself and you can treat your family. So for me, using these oils, they're very cost effective. And using homeopathy, looking at your diet, and just making sure that you create joy in your life. You raise your vibration, you make time for relaxation, you make sure that the kids have screen-free time, you encourage them to make healthy choices. And remember also that fruit unfortunately converts as sugar, so it's more about the vegetables than it is about increasing the fruit in their diet. There's so much we can actually do. I would just really invite you to question your presumptions around what you feel you should do in order to protect your child, to protect yourself, to protect your parents, to protect your partner. And, you know, Enjoy is about holistic health awareness. It's about holistic health education. It's about you making your own informed decisions for your family, what is right for you. And one of the other things I'd just like you to consider with all of these, you know, we're still increasing our vaccine protocols, despite the fact that the evidence is actually really quite shaky, and despite the fact that the companies that make these vaccines are profit driven. They've got shareholders. It's just insane that money is making decisions. When you're talking to your public health provider, when you're talking to your doctor, when you're talking to your midwife, when you're talking to your nurse, when you're talking to anyone who's within that system, you might be lucky and meet someone who's done research beyond their training. But mostly you'll hear, this is all there is, this is all you can do, this is all we know. And, you know, depending on the attitude of the person that you're speaking to, you can be told this is the only thing there is, it's the only choice you've got. And that's not true, it's the only choice they know of. Speak to a homeopath, you'll get a different answer. Speak to an acupuncturist, speak to a herbalist, speak to a naturopath. You will find out that there are lots of different things you can actually do. And I invite you to step out of that tunnel vision and start to expand your understanding, start to research. Careful with Google, it can be dodgy because, you know, we do our best to become our own doctors, but you'll do well to actually watch videos to learn more about how your body works, to learn more about what your body needs to stay healthy. It's not just about what you put in, it's not just what you put on. And my particular concern is around vaccines that are more than one vaccine at a time, because when would you ever have more than one illness at a time? You don't. You don't have 5 illnesses or 3 illnesses in one go, you have one. So how are our bodies supposed to cope with 5? My particular concern is around genetic mutation, how these vaccines potentially genetically mutate us. And so you know, the way a flu vaccine works is they take different flus from around the world, try and create something, we're bringing them together, and then they vaccinate you so that you've supposedly protected against these different flus. But now we know that flus are also mutating, which is what the anti-vax movement has been talking about for years. So is this approach actually working? Do you believe it works? You know, what did they say about the plague? You know, the plague killed X amount of people and fear killed the rest. Never underestimate the effect of fear in making your decisions, because fear sends you into fight, flight, freeze. The moment that you are in a panic state, thank you, you are going to end up doing what you're told. And what you're told might not be the best thing for you in the long term. So it's always good to be preventative. It's always good for you to be able to take your time beforehand to do research, so that when you're dealing with a crisis, you can feel confident. And this is exactly why we run our Introduction to doTERRA oil sessions at Enjoy Yoga. We run one a month, usually on a Sunday. I will make sure the dates that are made available on the Enjoy Yoga Facebook page that are upcoming dates. But come along, find out how you can use oils to boost your health. Find out about how you can treat every childhood common illness, everything that we are exposed to that we would normally go to a first aid kit for, and we would go for over-the-counter prescription drugs and so forth. There is always an alternative, and there are things that can work in conjunction as well. So wherever you are on your journey, wherever you are on this path, know that there isn't only one way, and some ways are definitely better than others in terms of your long-term health. Going with what you know, going with what you're told because the science backs it up. Well, you know, there are agendas, and different science backs up different things. And actually, there is a lot of money involved in the decisions that are being made. So if I take all of that aside and I just say, everyone's perception is limited. Only when you bring each expert round a round table and you have a discussion that isn't based on accusations, isn't based on who's right and who's wrong, but is based on, this is what I've researched, this is what I've seen gets results, this is what I know, this is what I'm sharing with you. Imagine all the experts coming together and being able to pull that all together, because it's not either or, it's this and more, okay? So Jed's saying, our mind is so powerful to heal our bodies or make them sick. Love doTERRA oils to boost my health and work with my body. Yeah, they are brilliant. I mean, this is more about, I want it to be more about you thinking about, you know, your way around flu and what tools you actually have. And it's not just flu, it's all the childhood illnesses that you hear about. It's all the adult illnesses that we hear about. I think I heard the other day that, is it dementia or Alzheimer's is now being treated as a type 3 diabetes. Isn't that interesting? You know, again, sugar. And think about this, you know, this sugar issue has all been post-Second World War. It's post-rations. We've gone crazy. We haven't understood the poison that it is. And it's in everything. It's in alcohol, you know, it's in everything. It's in every processed food. So I hope that you'll take this not as an attack and not as a reason to sort of get irate, but definitely to start to remove your blinkers when you're looking at any kind of media portrayal of what's going on, and the fact that, oh my goodness, we all must go down the road and get a jab for this or a spray for that. Think about it. What's the alternative? Boost your gut. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. Get it healthy. And then you're on a much, much more even keel to protect yourself from everything, not just flu. The last thing I wanted to point out was actually about antibacterial gels. So, you know, we've become obsessed with antibacterial gels that kill all these germs. And again, I just brought up, there was one little thing that got said here. I'm just going to play it again. Let's go to the start.
Hey guys, Tara here for DNews, and there's been a lot of talk over the past few years about hand sanitizer and why it can actually be dangerous for you. DNews actually did an episode on it just last year. The basic idea is that triclosan, the active ingredient in hand sanitizer, kills off all of your good bacteria, making it easier for antibiotic-resistant strains to flourish. But that's not the only reason it's bad. A new study published this week in PLOS ONE finds that using hand sanitizer can also increase your skin's absorption of BPA. BPA stands for bisphenol A, and it's a chemical used in the production of almost all hard plastics, including containers used for most foods and beverages. Essentially, it imitates our hormones in a way that disrupts our body's natural endocrine system. Studies have linked high amounts of BPA to hormone disorders, heart disease, cancer, infertility, and even diabetes. In a nutshell, it's bad. And according to the...
I'll send you the link. Open your eyes. This is not about taking symptoms away. This is about treating causes and making sure that we are healthy long term. You cannot put your faith in other people to tell you that everything is safe, because most of the food we're eating is toxic. Most of the things we're putting on our bodies are toxic, okay? And then the things that we're using to treat this toxicity is also toxic. Don't get me started about endocrine disruptive chemicals. Don't get me started about the fact that we're being encouraged to put hormones in our body to protect us from getting pregnant when we're teenagers. We are messing up our hormones, which also messes up your endocrine system, which also messes up your hormonal system, which then messes up the whole of your body. Then you can't get pregnant. Then you need more hormones to get pregnant. Then you can't go into labor, and you need more hormones to go into labor. Then you can't breastfeed. And then where do you go from there? Depression, Then you've got anxiety, then you've got more drugs to treat that, then you've got hormone replacement therapy, and then you've got all the illnesses that we can welcome in later life. We have to take charge of our health here. We have to start looking at cause and effect, and we have to start making some different choices. As consumers, we are incredibly powerful. We have buying power, and we can also make complaints, and we can also demand things to be different. So please do not feel bullied into doing things that you don't feel are right, and always wait if you need to do your research. You can always take time to do that, and so long as you are showing that you are doing the research to make informed decisions, then you should be able to appease those who feel they know better than you and are seeking to make sure that you are safe, because no one wants to be safe more than the person that is trying to protect themselves and those they love. I will leave it there. I look forward to the discussion, and there will be more videos about this very issue, and I will bring in some of the experts I know to talk about it. In the meantime, I'll leave you with these links. Namaste, be healthy, be well. If you want to know more about doTERRA, let us know. Take care. Bye-bye now.